Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy, and welcome to our discussion review on Season 2 of The Boys. This is a bit of an awkward one to start off with because we haven't actually done a review on Season 1, so we're going to take an opportunity at the beginning of this review to talk a little bit about Season 1, sort of where it ended, our experiences with it, and thoughts going into Season 2 immediately. But this is going to be completely spoiler-filled for Season 2. We're reviewing all of the 8 episodes together as one. Which is what I think it probably should have been. Season 2 with Amazon Prime kind of changed it up a bit. They were releasing it week to week, as opposed to the whole Netflix style of just getting them all out there and just binging through them. Nevertheless, I still binged through them in almost record time because I was very late to the party with the boys. If anyone saw our Battle of the Brackets that we did last time, best comic book movie portrayal of a character, everyone had seen The Boys and was talking about The Boys, and we're talking about characters like Homelander and everyone in between, and I was just blissfully ignorant and unaware of everything that was going on. So thankfully I'm all caught up now, and I'm ready for Season 3, whenever that's going to be in a couple of years' time. But over to you two guys. How are you doing? How are you two doing it today?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm doing very well as well.
Awesome.
I'm excited to get chatting about The Boys, but
we have things to talk about. There's a lot of things to talk about, but yes, socials first. We'll get those out of the way, and then we'll get to the show itself.
This is a video about The Boys, so please comment below with any of your thoughts on The Boys Season 2. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We're trying to get to 2,000 by the end of the year if we can, so please go and do that. Also, please go and find us on Facebook. We announce all of our videos on there. Pretty much on a daily basis at the moment because we've got so many videos coming out. So go onto Facebook. I just find Cinema Savvy on there. You can go onto Twitter at cinema_savvy. And also, if you want to, go and pick up a t-shirt, TeePublic. The link is in the description below.
Awesome. So, Season 1 of The Boys, did you guys watch it when it first came out? Did you watch it once it had all been said and done? Did you sort of see the talk online before going into it? What was the deal with it? And obviously, it is based on a graphic novel series. I haven't read the comic book series, but I know that the show is kind of doing its own thing. It's broken away from a lot of the storylines. Were you familiar with that, or were you sort of going into the TV show itself completely cold?
You go first.
I'm quite lucky with this. So I jumped on this very quick. So it came out, I want to say July, August last year, just around the time I started a new job. You know, when you're getting to know people in a company, and someone's like, "Oh, there's this new series coming out called The Boys," and I was like, "Okay." I hadn't seen anything, and then I saw a photo of Karl holding a baby, and his eyes were on fire like a laser. I was like, "I need to read about this," and then I think it came out. I saw it a couple of days later, and there was all this social media stuff, and that's the best thing for these Netflix style binge shows is you release a whole season in one go. You can sit down, you can binge it. I had Amazon anyway, so I have to worry about the free trial and everything like that. And I remember just putting episode 1 on, then episode 2, then 3, and then that's go to work the next day. And then it was done over 2 sittings. It was, to me, as someone that's grown up with the superhero genre, read comic books for years and years, to see the anti-comic book movie TV series with the sole pitch of everyone I recommend this to, I said, this series, imagine if the Justice League was full of arseholes, but they were owned by Disney. That is, to me, the core concept of The Boys. That's the best way to tell people about it. And straight away, it became one of my favorite TV shows, one of the shows that I will hype up until anyone that wants to know about it. It was so, I'm not going to say the word perfect, but it was so needed. In this era of here's 3 Marvel films, here's 4 Marvel films, here's 2 X-Men films, here's the next 10 years of content. It's one of those, but it's done so much better, and I was completely blown away. Especially with Homelander, Evil Superman has been something that, you know, people can talk about. Henry Cavill, say he does things Superman shouldn't do. This year we had that weird horror film, and Evil Superman's a really sort of easy concept. It's not been done as well as Homelander, and I don't think it will be done as well as Homelander for a long time that comes from this. And everything this series just sold me. I was so excited. It was such a great series. So I was very hyped building up into season 2 as well. But yeah, I was on it pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
I was not. I completely missed the boat the first time round. So it came out, I think you were right when you said it came out. So it came out July 26th, 2019. And I saw advertising for the series. I saw billboards, I saw a trailer. But then I don't know why I didn't go to it. I don't know why I immediately went to go and watch it or anything like that. And I let it kind of settle. And I actually watched it the first time, I want to say October time. Like, I really did leave it a while. I watched it around Halloween time and binged it in one day, in one sitting. Was fantastic. Absolutely loved it. And watched it again whilst I was out in Austria over Christmas time as well. And then watched it again with my dad, introducing him to it at the start of lockdown. So I think I've watched series 1 now 3, possibly even 4 times, maybe in one time in there, which I may have jumped in as well. The series was just so engaging. It was so well put together and so not what I expected from the series at all. I thought, seeing the posters and seeing bits of the advertising and stuff like that, I genuinely thought it was going to be about the superheroes, the Seven. I was so happy to find out that it absolutely wasn't about the Seven at all. And it was about these group of people looking to take down the Seven. Jumping off the back of what George said, the first series was just fantastic. It was everything you could have wanted from a superhero show, especially one that looks to kind of change the narrative of superheroes and show different perspectives on superheroes, and basically show that superheroes can have weaknesses that aren't physical, that are possibly mental health, or even like their own kind of egos getting in the way of things and stuff like that. And it was really well put together in that sense. Really enjoyed watching it through, and I was super hyped for the second series. Really hyped.
Yeah, for me, I really didn't know anything about it other than sort of like drips and drabs that you two guys had talked to me about. I think George, you mentioned, there's a character like similar to the Flash in there, but it's what would happen if like a superhero like that existed in real life and accidentally ran into someone. So you kind of told me that it was very near the mark. It was very adult. It was very gory. And I don't know why I just didn't get to it. We have to watch a lot of things. I watch a lot of things. And, when someone says, oh, watch this TV show, it always goes on to the proverbial list of things that need to get watched. And you'll get to them at some point. But I think it was really just hearing you guys all talk about it on the last Battle of the Brackets, where I was like, I really need to and I knew that season 2 was coming to an end. I thought now's probably the best time to get on it and sort of watch them all in the lead up, and then sort of catch the back end of season 2, which is exactly what I did. And I was similar to you, George, in that it took me about 2 days to get through season 1. It really is like an 8-hour movie. It all flows, all, big one solid storyline. I love the characters. I love the conceit. I kind of see it as I think the concepts of season 1 and season 2 are very different in how Vought is sort of dealt with. I think season 1 and the themes that it goes into, it really is that, and I think you nailed it perfectly where you said it's like if Disney had their own sort of Justice League and were whoring it out and marketing it out and doing all these things. It is really, season 1 is more of a pastiche on the superhero genre and superhero culture, I would say, at the moment. Whereas season 2, it's going into more of sort of like political satire and there's certain elements now that we're seeing going on in the world where you can sort of extrapolate things and apply it to our own situation. I saw it more of it's taking on more political side of things, whereas season 1's more poking fun and having fun at the superhero genre. It kind of reminds me the concept of it a little bit like Watchmen, not completely, because I know Watchmen is very much about surrounded by Vietnam and everything like that, but that concept of superheroes in the real world, if they were real people, if these powers existed within our world, and people manipulating them and using them for political gain or for their own agendas. So, and I really like that concept about Watchmen. It's one of my favorite things about it. So it was nice to see similar things being done with the boys, but in a very, very different way. And then, of course, there's the characters within the show as well. Karl Urban's fantastic in every single thing that he's in, whether it be the Lord of the Rings, the Star Trek trilogy of films. I thought he was great in those as Bones, Dredd, and then we see him as a very, very different character in this, very quotable. I always love Karl Urban. And I think why season 1 worked for me, and this is, you're not going to have the same thing when you get to season 2, obviously, because the characters advance, but Huey's character is sort of arguably the main character. He is the everyman, and I always think that it's very important to have a character like that in any kind of new fictional setting. You have the character that the audience can latch onto, that is sort of brought into this world where everything's new, and you're learning sort of through him the rules and mechanics of this world and the characters within it. And then the concept of the Seven, Homelander, I mean, needs no introduction now. He is actually you guys sent me the clip from season 1 of, and we will get onto season 2 in a minute, of the plane crash sequence from 1. Now, I hadn't seen a single clip from this show before that point. I sort of knew rough ideas. And that sort of stayed with me more than like any scene in a TV show I can remember for a long time. The impact of that, and I was like, oh, it's going to these places. It's dealing with these kind of things. But yeah, very interesting characters. Season 1, fantastic. I'd give it like a 9 out of 10. I'd give it way up there for me. And then season 2. So I didn't really have that year-long break away from it. I didn't have that hype. I didn't have that speculation of what was going to happen or where it was going to go, because I pretty much ended season 1 and then went straight on to 2. So it almost felt like, season 1 and 2 combined almost felt like an entire thing for me. So what about you guys? Was there that hype there? Was you that speculation and excitement and hype going into season 2?
Yeah, I remember the trailer dropping and just trying to decipher it. Should we say? Because the trailer for it didn't actually give away like any plot points or anything like that. It was literally just a bunch of clips from the series, a couple of one-liners thrown in, and just kind of a mess show of blood, kind of violence, sex, just everything. And it was like, oh shit, how does this all fit together and stuff like that? And it was kind of that, okay, like can't wait for the series to come out and stuff like that. And it did make me rewatch it, the series over again. But I was proper hyped for it. I was really hyped for it to see what direction they would take the show in.
Yeah, and I think when it comes down to these kind of shows as well, it was one of them. I missed the. I don't like watching trailers for TV shows. I knew pretty much nothing going into season 1, and I think TV's far easier to spoil via trailers than sort of films are. So I think it must have been they did some weird like Comic-Con at home in the summer, and they released a trailer. I skipped it, but I saw the 1-minute clip, which is of the whale, which I think we're going to get to later on.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was that moment. Okay, they're back, and that's kind of what it is. I'm not watching obviously I'm watching for the story and stuff, but because of how much you've grown to love these characters in that window of year 1, like The Boys, you think of memes on Facebook, The Boys, it's that old like 60s Spider-Man meme. You kind of think of this now, like they're back, and that's all you need to know. You just want to see what on earth is going to happen, what ridiculous story they're doing, who they're trying to hunt down. And there is nothing to sell me on it except seeing these guys back on screen together. So hype for season 2 was strange because I was very hyped, but at the same time I was quite sort of level-headed. Didn't know what to expect. I knew of Stormfront, so I've not read the comics. Normally I would for shows and stuff like this. I've done it in the past, like Marvel stuff, and I didn't want to because I heard so many mixed things about these comics where, they were ignoring some of the really awful things. They did some things way better than the comics. They did some things not as good. They kind of, I don't know if Walking Dead's the same. They take stories from it and they just do it their own way, whatever way they think gonna. Yeah, and I think I knew obviously that Stormfront, certainly for a big thing later, is that Stormfront is a bloke in the comics, and he's basically just Homelander version 2, and I absolutely adore what they did in this series for every reason they put forward of switching it to Maya Cash. I thought that was great, but I was a little bit nervous. I had a couple of things spoiled via these sort of in Facebook groups. You see comic panels and stuff, and you're wondering, because it's not doing it faithfully, it's like, they might skip that thing. They might not skip that thing. And there's a couple of things which it means it could happen in season 3. It could not happen at all. So I don't want to delve into that in case people at home obviously don't want potentially series 3 onward spoilers. But I was in a very intriguing mindset heading into this. And I think it's worth mentioning in terms of hype, it was a real big sort of punch in the face for it not to be dropped all at once on Amazon. And I'm not going to sit here like I don't own Amazon, but I think it's quite clear that everyone was doing a 3-month trial and binging season 1, as everyone does on Netflix for everything else, as people were doing on Disney Plus before they got rid of it. You wait for what you want to watch, and to drop 3 episodes and then do 5 weekly, I think was strange. You should either do 8 weekly or you drop them all together. I don't think you can get them over 50-50, and I was really not disappointed because it didn't affect how I viewed it, but The Boys isn't a Mandalorian. I know we've all had this chat sort of off air. It's not Mandalorian. It's not Game of Thrones. This is designed to drop at once, and it was not designed season 2 to be across 5 weeks, which is what it ended up being. And I'm not, I was still watching it every Friday when the episodes would drop, but not every episode had this, I need to come back next week. It didn't have that vibe because of the way it is designed. There's maybe one episode where it's cliffhanger to a point, and that's episode 7 into episode 8. And I don't know, it was a very strange tactical decision that I think probably came off Amazon's higher ups more so than anything, because the beauty of weekly shows is you get word of mouth. A lot more people will watch it. I think most people that were going to watch Boys were going to watch it regardless. Its growth over the last year has been insane. I just think releasing it not all at once was a big mistake, and it didn't affect how I view the season, but it certainly didn't work to season 2's advantage.
It affected a lot of people though, didn't it? Because it got review bombed on release when they found out that it was going to be just the first 3 episodes, and then we'd have to wait. A lot of people were giving it 1-star reviews, even though the episodes themselves were fantastic. They were really well put together, really good. But I think maybe that's a decision in the future. I don't know if they would go the same thing again. Now they've tried it with that kind of weekly thing. I mean, we all know. I mean, I know why they've put it up to 5 weeks, so that people can't just get a free trial and just watch it in one sitting. Which means they may try that again in the future. So they stretch out their series so that it covers past the free trial. Because obviously they're a business; they want to make money, and they're not making any money at all off people getting free trials.
Well, I was going to say, like, I don't know. I want to go into the main plot in a minute, but I think it's worth talking about this because I don't know many shows that are on Amazon Prime. Like, I'm sure they have loads, but in terms of like a big flagship series, I was talking about, Mandalorian is that one for Disney Plus. Netflix has got plenty on there, although it likes to cancel quite a lot of shows. It does have a lot on there. Cobra Kai is a big one most recently that's on there. Amazon Prime, I feel like, need that one big show, and I feel like The Boys is that show, certainly at the moment. So it makes sense to do it week to week, but narratively, to me, it is structured like that one. Because I had like a bit of hindsight because I came into it quite late. I could watch like at least, I think, 5 of the episodes or 6 of the episodes in a binge sitting, and then I had to kind of wait around for the last 2, and it felt awkward not having that option to binge it, certainly for this show. But I'm sure now they're all released and everything. Maybe another sitting where you can do them all beginning to end might help sort of strengthen that series.
Well, the thing is that people were waiting for the free trial to end and then watching the entire series, as in like they were waiting for the free trial to come around so all the episodes were out, and then they were going, okay, we're going to watch the series now. So
I think it's just a new norm, in all honesty. Like, I think that's just how TV shows are going now. Like, sort of gone are the days of waiting week to week to week for a TV show. I know they're still out there with Mandalorian, but that makes sense because they're episodic. But tastes have changed now. People like having that option to just boot up Netflix and just go through a series, and Netflix obviously has the handy thing where in the end credits, it kind of prompts you to automatically put the next episode on, which always works. It always works.
I think I was going to say the biggest thing here is that Netflix at the moment doesn't have a free trial, and they also have enough series to carry you on afterwards. You could join Netflix to watch one specific series, like I did when I was watching through BoJack Horseman, and I haven't actually jumped off Netflix since because there's always been extra content coming out. The problem at the moment is Amazon Prime does free trials, and they also don't have any shows to back it up. I mean, they have, the All or Nothing series. That's the only reasonably popular series they've got, and it's not like everyone's cup of tea. It's a sports series documentary, so it's not going to entice people to come back in. So they either need to get rid of the free trial, or they need to just make more series.
Well, we've got Lord of the Rings coming soon, so we'll see what they do with that.
That's my kind of like my final point is All or Nothing is obviously football. You had Man City, Leeds, Tottenham, all these. First couple of series were every episode dropped at once, and I think on the new one, I haven't watched it, it's Tottenham. They did 3 episodes on launch, and then they did it across like 3 weeks of 3 episodes at a time. And it's not live in person; it's from last season's football fixtures. So why did you not do that for the other series, but now you're doing it today? And it takes you out of it, and it does make you think with Amazon, even to The Boys. It's the whole point of The Boys is it's anti-corporate, and yet here they are with a corporate decision. Not to harp on it too much because it doesn't affect the quality of the content, because those episodes were going to be made regardless. But in terms of hype, sustainability, and again, what they set up with the first season, it is something worth discussing. And it, hopefully they do go back in season 3 to dropping them all at once, because the series just works far better. If they make it episodic, that's fine. But season 2 was not episodic to the least. Nothing for episodic for episode 2.
Definitely. So we'll go more into sort of the main plot now. And once again, a big spoiler warning to anyone who's still sticking around. We are going to spoil not just the ending of season 1, but pretty much all of season 2. So you have been warned. So season 1 ended with the death of Stillwell and the revelation that Butcher's wife is still alive with child, Homelander's child, and sort of set season 2 up in a way where there was going to be some shake-up with the leadership at Vought. Homelander was going to try and reinstate himself as sort of the face of the Seven and sort of that reputation and wanting to have the say in everything. And you also had Butcher's quest to sort of get his wife out of the compound that she was in, see her again, find out where she is. And that sort of takes us on to onto season 2, really, the main concept. And for me, my biggest takeaway with this series was Homelander. I absolutely loved everything they did with his character in this. We saw loads more sides to him as well. He was already a very multifaceted character. He was this he was sociopathic Superman, essentially. But in this one, you have elements of his past and his upbringing and a weird sense of fatherhood, and they really delve into that kind of Oedipus complex as well, which I thought was really fascinating, which we saw elements of in season 1, which they kind of doubled down on with this series as well. He's a really, really fascinating character, and then even more interesting when you introduce the character of Stormfront, and you have this sort of, she is like the female version of him in many ways, but as the series progresses, he realizes like what an extremist she really is. And Homelander is not a good guy. He is not a good character at all. But even he draws the line at like Nazis and, like essentially like another Reich, which is going to bring an end to the world. So
I believe the line, we must prevent the white genocide or whatever it was in the the later episodes, the final episodes. And I just went, wow, you're not even trying to be subtle anymore, are you?
Yeah, exactly. And is it Anthony Starr? Is that the one?
Anthony Starr, yes.
Easily the standout for me. He was in season 1, but especially in season 2, I loved what they did with his character. There are some elements towards the middle of the show, some things that are raised about the character where it was taking it in a very interesting way, which they, to me, kind of dropped or didn't follow up on. There's this whole thing where Homelander's disgraced as being like a war criminal, killing innocent people, and there's videos of that, and there's rallies against him and protests and everything like that. And then pretty much within the next episode, he just gets on stage with Stormfront, and there doesn't seem to be any more of that opposition or protest against him, and he's back in the public eye again. And I know that that's sort of the conceit of the show, that, and you could really argue in modern day as well, a celebrity could do something absolutely horrendous, and then just one sort of like, public stunt, what's the term? Publicity stunt, sorry. And they're back in the limelight. So I get that, but I didn't feel like they really followed through with some plot points like that. I felt like season 2 was 2 episodes too long. I felt that season 1 told a very good, concise story. It needed the 8 episodes. It had enough story to back it up. Season 2 for me felt a little bit meandering in the middle, and some plot threads that kind of went nowhere, or some writing that seemed overly convenient, especially towards the finale, which we'll go into when we'll talk about the ending. I still thought it was solid. If I'm going to give my initial opinions, I still thought it was a brilliant series, brilliant viewing of TV, and I very much enjoyed it. But compared to season 1, it did fall considerably shorter for me as a season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think with the boys, it's hard because they announced season 3 way before season 2 came out. And the worry when shows do this, obviously Marvel is very different, but they announced 10 years worth at one go. Not that it lowers the stakes, but season 3 is coming. And they're making references at things I know is going to come in season 3. I mean, I don't know if anyone's seen the news, but the villain of season 3 is going to be the original Soup. He's called Soldier Boy. They make hints at him in the series. Gus from Breaking, he's always going to be Gus. I don't care. Sorry, Giancarlo. But you get these brilliant scenes, and it's always every great scene involves Homelander to a point, and that's the definition of the show. That season 1 is all about Karl Urban. Season 2 is Homelander. You've had these great bits in season 1. They build up to him being the psycho he is, but the way he is in season 2 is so integral. Everything focuses around him. You mentioned the fatherhood. Some of my favorite scenes was him thinking he could be a good dad by pushing his kid off a balcony.
Yeah.
But then later on, you actually get these fatherly things where Becca says, you take this kid out in public, he's never been with other people, that kid is not going to be able to cope. You get that great moment where Stormfront and Homelander are at like the Planet Hollywood place, and the kid's overwhelmed, and he just flies off with him, puts him in a safe place. And I like the things because obviously we know he's a psycho. We know he's sort of you don't know what he's going to do every time he steps into a room. Main example being when there was, I forgot his name. Basically, Daredevil had a quick cameo in the early part of the series, which was hilariously awful. And he's reached this point where, every time he goes in a room, he's either going to kill someone or he's going to let them go. And I think that's his nature, that he is this spoiled brat that has not been loved. Been rewatching Harry Potter recently. There's a lot of Voldemort comparisons I'm pretty much willing to make at this point. But even with everything focused on him, there are still times when you kind of feel sorry for him and you don't want to, but you do. And you do kind of pity him to a point, but at the same time, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. That's the go-to phrase now. Final Shot serves that. But as a whole, in the story-wise, season 2 just felt like it's trying to build up to something else that's coming down the line. It's not as obvious as some other TV shows have done it, but it did feel like they're trying to tell a story now that's going to go on for a lot longer than the next few weeks. And, episode 3, they dropped the bombshell that superheroes are made, they're not natural. And it's like click of a finger done. You'd expect that to be like a end of season finale or some humongous revelation. And it was like click of the fingers, they're all good next week. And some things like that, again, I don't know how important these are to the comics, but it just felt rushed because they want to get somewhere else. And I think, again, going back to Homelander, the big thing was Stormfront being his aid, because I think whatever's happened to her, how open it's going to be, I think that's going to massively affect him heading into season 3. But it's gone from being the show of the boys to now being Homelander. That's the way I feel. So my kind of main negative is that not that we don't get enough of the boys, but they don't feel as tight-knit a group as they did in season 1. So I'm really hoping.
Yeah. I was going to jump off that. The group itself doesn't have the same chemistry. And I know that's intentional because of the story. There needs to be some kind of conflict within the team. And you see that in the opening 3 episodes. And I'll give a shout out in the 3rd episode, the one with them being chased through the sewers and everything like that. And Huey just looks like he's ready to quit. And I do quite like the running theme throughout the series, because I think Huey's character in this series was fascinating compared to his first series kind of character, where you didn't really see him suffer too much in the first series, apart from like episode 1. Like all of the actions he does past that, he does gaining confidence. And it's like episode 1, he gets the confidence completely taken out of him. He gets put in charge of a mission, and basically the director of the CIA gets their head blown off. So you see him slowly deteriorate, and it's the people around him who kind of lift his character up. But I really enjoyed the journey that he went on this series, at least. A lot of Billy Joel songs included throughout the series, which I liked as a nice touch. And they came back to it in the final episode with it finally being a link to, it was songs that he used to have on when he was with his mother, when he was like dancing with her and stuff like that, which was really nice. Homelander is easily the best character in the series, like this series. I think Butcher's character lost something this series. I can't put my finger on what. And it's very difficult because I enjoyed his character, but not in the same way that I did the first series. And I don't know whether that's because in the first series he's so unapologetic, he's so kind of hard-faced, he has absolutely no filter, and he has no real kind of weakness in that sense. But it's like in the second series he's just lost something.
I'm not going to say he wasn't as well. I am going to say I don't think that Butcher was as funny season 2 as maybe he was in season 1.
Maybe that was it.
I think it's probably down to the revelation, knowing that his wife is out there, and he's more sort of tunnel vision and focused on that. And that could be why you could argue that the team dynamic isn't there, because they don't really feel united. They feel split apart. You've got, as you mentioned, like Huey's sort of like crisis of faith in the boys and kind of wanting to live his own peaceful life and get out of the game. You've got Frenchie and Kimiko that had really establishing something and almost wanting to break apart. You can sense that the team is fraying essentially, which is a good concept to take it and is a good progression from season 1, but it is a shame because you are losing out on. I thought they were so tight as a group in season 1, and the banter that they all had between each other I thought was fantastic, and they're more split apart this series. I think. And even at the end, jumping way to the last episode, they all go their separate ways again, which we'll get onto sort of season 3 hype at the end. But I don't know what they're going to do with these characters. Is it going to constantly be we get them back together, they break apart, we get them back together? So, but I'll agree with that. He definitely feels different. And I think that's probably the reason why. I don't know if it's down to I think it's just the way that the story's gone, for better or worse. I think that's... And I think there would be that change in Butcher's character as well, knowing that his wife is out there. Everything they do, every moment that they're there, he knows that she is out there somewhere. Because the first series, he didn't know if she was dead. He liked to think he's keeping on to that hope that she was still out there somewhere. He was determined. So I guess there would be that sense of futility, that why are we wasting time doing this when my wife is out there? Maybe that's why it's different. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry. I was going to say, I think the Becca revelation on season 1 has shaped him in season 2, and jumping to the finale, his maybe not the best scene he has in season 2, but the moment she dies and he picks that crowbar, we know we're getting a different character now, and I think he's going to be, hopefully, politely. I can imagine him being even more like he was in season 1. Now he knows, he's had everything took from him before the show came out. Then he thinks he's got it all back, to the point where they're meeting up. He wants to drive her away and everything, and then to see her own son kill her, and he promises to look after him. There's going to be some repercussions for this, which I'm very excited by. And I think you bring in the Homelander dynamic, that the kid picked Butcher over Homelander. I think that's going to make it even more of a draw. So whether this is a character development to a point, it didn't feel like it, but in the long term, maybe it is. I'm really hoping so, because the thing I liked most, more than Homelander from season 1, was the boys, and they didn't feel that close-knit group. So, they all had their great moments. I loved the episode when they go to the what they call the hospital, and you kind of have that funny situation. They've all got the antics, and they introduce a character from the comics called Love Sausage, who we all know about now. Obviously, he won't be coming back. He had a bigger role in the comics. Again, a decision
I didn't realize that was his name. I did not realize
his name. I can't. Sorry, George. Would you like to elaborate on how Love Sausage has a bigger role in the comic?
He's involved in killing Stormfront in the comics.
Oh, wow.
But not via Davy Jones' tentacles down below. Jumping off to Stormfront before. So they, in the comics, it's really boring. They all take the serum, they all get strong, and they just beat her up and they die. Well, Stormfront dies. It's such, again, what they did now, we don't know if she's dead or not, but better decisions. If the boys all took compound...
I think Homelander said that she was in a lab, locked away somewhere.
Probably.
So
I think it will be. I think it's going to be like Mr. Freeze and his wife. That she's probably locked up in a chamber somewhere.
We're going to have Darth Stormfront or some shit. See the mask on just like in episode 3.
It will be very interesting. Again, big decisions they made was keeping her alive, because if she was dead, they would have showed her die. I think that's a golden rule with TV nowadays. If they're dead, they show it, and they didn't show it, which indicates a lot. And I think it's going to be a really interesting dynamic for Homelander as well, especially with the kid, because if he wants the kid back, it's not going to look good if Stormfront's still alive. So there's things there, there's things ready. But again, if they'd have put Compound V in the boys and they all got strong and had a fight, that defeats the entire purpose of what the show is trying to be. So I'm glad that they cut away from all of that and just kept it the way it was.
Yeah, and I think you still have that beat. They still reference that and they still pay homage to that scene, which was a brilliant scene where they're all just absolutely kicking the shit out of Stormfront. It's the editing as well. You feel every impact, every punch, and it is a character that you hate. You hate Stormfront, and I think that's testament to the writing, the acting as well, and that you love to hate Homelander, at least I do, in season 1 and even into seasons 2, but then you introduce a new character who's even more villainous than Homelander, if you can even imagine that possible. And they go into a backstory as well, and I thought it was kind of it's an interesting origin story for Vought as an industry, and that it was built on that. And even her character, she's this seemingly unaging, immortal Nazi who's never forgotten her agenda, even as all the decades have gone by.
I just realized her first line to Homelander is, "Wow, your eyes are really fucking blue."
Oh, okay.
The first one she noticed about Homelander is his blue eyes.
Yeah.
That only just twigged in my head. I'm just like, wow.
blonde hair, blue eyes. Yeah. It's all there, isn't it? So, and I did like her dynamic with Homelander was really fascinating to watch as the weeks went by. It was this sort of, they were almost like fuck buddies for a few episodes, but you could tell there was that constant power struggle, and you had that bit where Stormfront was pushing to be the leader of the Seven, and Homelander didn't like that, and there was that constant power struggle, which we see acted out physically between the two of them as well. I thought it was a really, really interesting layer to both characters. And then even at the end as well, with when Homelander's kid's thrown into the mix and just completely annihilates Stormfront, it humbles Homelander as well, because now we know that there is a superhero out there that probably could kill Homelander if he wanted to, and in that moment he fears him. In that scene, what he could do.
I don't know if earlier on in the series Homelander was going easy on Stormfront, because they have a sex scene where he lasers her, and I'm wondering if he kind of dialed it down then, and maybe, or look at it the other way, maybe the kid is just that much more powerful than like Homelander, which would be very interesting to look at in the next series.
And they said as well he's like the first ever natural born hero, which could also add that, chosen one dynamic. He could be the most powerful thing ever because he was human made rather than in a lab. So there's a really good dynamic to go with it. But I think the Stormfront stuff, I think, is it the best performance this season? It's hard to take anything off Homelander, but I did not expect the characters to come into season 2 and have that kind of effect where you kind of like her a little bit at the start, and then you kind of realize that, whoa, Nazi. And as A-Train said, fuck that bitch. Well, fuck that Nazi bitch, actually. Because he didn't have much to do, but he gets his redemption in the last episode. And I want to really quickly go on to the deep, because I fucking love him. The best thing about this series is the whole it's taking the piss out of the Justice League. But the one thing they kept the same is that the Aquaman is still the loser of the group. His story ultimately does nothing to the plot, and I think that's what makes it so perfect. They have this whole redemption arc for him, and that he still doesn't get back onto the Seven. When he has the whale, when he sits proud upon the whale, and he doesn't realize that they're actually just going to drive into it at full speed. Everything about the Deep is, again, I hated him in season 1. He's just a boring character. But in season 2, I like that he's now the kind of the piss taker of the group, and I want it to keep carrying on.
See, that was actually one of my biggest negatives, and I can totally see that. And I think as a sort of a comic relief element, that's fine. But I feel like there was a lot of characters, even characters that are newly introduced into season 2, that really didn't do anything, and their plot points didn't amount to anything. A-Train being one of them. He was kind of one of the biggest central characters of season 1, so I can understand maybe dialing him back, but it felt like they really didn't know what to do with his character, so he was left in stasis for a long time until the last episode where he, now he's back in the Seven and he kind of took that initiative. The Deep is funny as a comic relief character, but I felt like there was a lot of tread, no pun intended, a lot of tread in water with his character this season. I like that he's been publicly shamed and he's got to work towards some kind of redemption, but, comic relief's fine, but it didn't go beyond that. And I felt like they didn't really get anywhere with his character. That being said, the whole whale segment was fantastic. That was easily one of the highlights for me in this entire series. I thought it was hilarious. It was good to see them all kind of, the gang almost back together again. And he thought that was his moment to get back into the Seven. And he's just politely put down by Homelander, and the plot moves on. Even Lamplighter, who's, I always forget the name of the actor, the guy who plays Iceman in the X-Men films, which is quite an interesting.
Sean? Is it Sean Ash? No.
Ashmore, is it? I'm not sure.
Ashmore.
Yeah. Love that actor. He's fantastic. It was really good to see him back in something other than X-Men, because I loved him in those films. It was really cool to see him in this one. And Lamplighter was, again, another fascinating character who gets sort of like 1.5 episodes and then he's dead and he's out the series. And I felt like there's a lot of setup to his character, and then just to off him like that, it felt like a lot of time had been wasted setting up those things that don't really get much of a payoff or are just kind of thrown to the wayside. So I think that's also going to my criticism that this series feels a bit too long. It feels like there's all these elongated plot points that ultimately either get cut short or don't get followed up through. So you're thinking we'll just take those elements out of the show then and just cut it down to 6 episodes and make the story more focused on Stormfront, Homelander, and Butcher, which is where the meat of the story is, and drop all these unnecessary plot points that if you don't know what to do with the characters, just save them till season 3 and do something with them then.
Well, I was going to say something which I'm very surprised that they've basically axed off just for this series alone is the church. Because the church seemed like a massive thing this series. I'm not going to lie, watching that episode 7 and the heads exploding in the courtroom, I thought that was the church.
Same.
Like when Shockwave blew up, I thought, okay, that's A-Train back into the 7. I was looking out to see what other heroes would blow up and stuff like that. I genuinely thought that was the church trying to kind of take over and stuff like that.
Yeah, you had the superpower that could rival Vought, these two sort of warring power figures, which I thought was quite cool. And then,
I thought maybe they would pick up more people aside from the 7. I thought that they would maybe try and not make their own 7, but try and make their own rival kind of thing that they could go up against. Because at the time, they had the Deep and A-Train, and that's a decent enough basis to former members. They could have also easily picked up Queen Maeve because she was in a ditch at the time. They could have really gone anywhere with that. But I was very shocked when the leader got axed off at the end of the series. I know it's setting up for, what's her face, Victoria Newman, to be kind of a villain for the next series, having these powers that she can blow up people's heads and stuff like that. But I feel like they maybe would have wasted the church storyline taking it forwards, but I don't know. It depends on whether that was a thing in the comics or not.
I don't know, and I thought they were interesting. I liked this weird, creepy cult they had, especially in the earlier episodes where there was that the female character who approaches the Deep at the beginning and asks very leading questions, and it's basically Scientology, isn't it?
And then suddenly,
to sort of get
they got rid of the Archer guy because he said something public about them, which was bad. And I thought, I thought it was a plot point that would develop further instead of just being stunted at the end of the series.
I hope, because obviously they've killed off the leader. I hope that it's back in season 3, but then it's kind of not necessarily wasted. But if A-Train's back in the 7, he's done. He doesn't care about them. Deep's kind of left them. I don't know, but I was kind of intrigued. I didn't know if the guy had like mind powers. That's how he got everyone onto Fresca and stuff. So there's some really interesting stuff, which I wish not they developed, because I think they developed it really well. It's more the kind of surprise ending, I guess, of that character. You know, hopefully the Church Collective is still in season 3, because I think there's some really cool things there, but I don't know enough about it. But I hope it wasn't wasted to, okay, now we need to unveil this new villain and let's just have a kill off someone that we set up for a couple of episodes. So there's some interesting dynamics heading into season 3, and I don't know how I feel about some of it, because I'm still excited. It sounds like we're kind of like dissing on it, but we're not. I think we all massively enjoyed the series. But there are some things which, the head popping was. Well, we mentioned earlier, it didn't feel episodic. The only episodic thing was the ending of episode 7, and I thought we're about to get a red wedding. I thought everyone in that room could be gone, and everyone had their theories. Who was it? Could it have been them? Could it have been them? Has Gus got powers all along? It was none of that. It was obviously the congresswoman. So there's an interesting dynamic to see what they want to do with her, especially now Huey's working for her. But to me, it seems the way they built her character up now, she can look at someone, their heads explode, no one's going to ever figure out it's her. I don't know how they can go into. I don't know if that's a villain in the comics, but it seems like a pretty, not necessarily risky, but a really interesting dynamic for season 3. And does she have the power to be able to kill someone like Homelander? I don't know, but certainly there's big questions which I hope have the right ending, which some arcs deserve. I'm very surprised Queen Maeve survived. That's all I'm going to say as well.
Yeah, I'm surprised as well.
Yeah, did they pay off the whole thing with her relationship with her ex? Because I know that the ex saw the footage from the plane from season 1, and then did she just leave? Because I think
she left.
Yeah.
I did love that scene where, credit to the actress that plays Ashley, one of the most dislikable characters, but you really like them because you dislike them, like the annoyingness. When Queen Maeve has enough and sleeps with like 3 guys in one bed, and she just walks in like, you can't do that, you're gay. And I just fucking love every scene with her. She plays that corporate sort of loser so well. I don't know what it is about it, but that scene of Queen Maeve, I love the whole I need to be careful what I say because I don't want this to come across the wrong way. The fact that they did the revelation that Maeve is gay and the 7 bigs up, like, look, we have our gay superhero. She is gay this, she is gay that. Like, gay Queen Maeve wouldn't do this. And I like that dynamic because it's not shitting on how companies do it in real life, but it does very much feel appropriate that I could imagine a company acting like this. You know, imagine if, like, an Avenger came out as being gay. How the fuck would
the
Disney
agenda, isn't it? Push the agenda,
and I love the things like that because they're not taking the piss out of the fact somebody is gay. It's the corporate.
It's lucrative, isn't it? It's a lucrative kind of thing. It gets more people, new demographic of people, and everything. It's all facts, figures, focus groups, and everything like that.
Yeah, like we've discussed like Black Lives Matter and stuff. Like, you see all these companies that, you know, they tweeted, you know, Black Lives do matter. It's like, hold on, 1 year ago you sacked one of your models for saying the same thing, and it's that kind of hypocrisy that I really like. So I'm intrigued to see her story arc for season 3 because it seems like she's done to a point. Like, Homelander's kind of accepted the blackmailing, I guess. So I'm intrigued to see what they do because he's not somebody that's just going to be allowed.
I'm not sure because Homelander's last scene was him wanking himself off on the roof saying that he could do anything he wants. I think next series, that plan in his head of just lasering the crowd, I have a feeling, you know.
I really wanted that to, when that happened, I really wish that had have happened because I would have gone, oh my God, this has completely changed the tables have turned. What has happened?
Now the government has their own branch against superheroes. He's going to be under a more watchful eye. He's going to have that ticking time bomb going in his head. And we heard it when he was doing the speech and it just kind of zooms in its white noise and stuff like that. You know, he's screaming internally.
That should have been the final shot for me, I thought, when it did that really creepy sociopathic stare into the camera, like Jack Nicholson or Gyllenhaal from Nightcrawler. I thought that's the perfect ending shot to end it on. That is chilling. That is terrifying. And then, George, you told me that the actual ending scene where he's wanking himself off on the building, that was actually a deleted scene from season 1. So it's a funny scene as it is. It's brilliant, and it is so Homelander as a character. But I thought the one where it was the stare into the camera was a much more impactful final shot for that character leading into the next series. For me personally, it ended on a funny, on a laugh.
I mean, what's the bet that he goes AWOL this season? What's the bet that he just absolutely goes for it, just kills a crowd of people, or just picks off people one by one?
Towards the end,
I think they're going to get something. I think when he lays everyone, I was like, oh my word, this is too soon, which is crazy. So I think it's something that's going to happen. It's more so a when than if. And I think when it does happen, it's going to be insane.
It's going to be brutal.
Yeah. And I think it won't just be, it won't just be a random crowd. I think there'll be names in there because the boys strikes me as the kind of show that will be
the tower. I reckon he'll take down the entire tower, the Vault Tower or something like that.
And I think one of the best things in this series is Homelander scenes with Giancarlo Esposito. The fact you have this mere mortal with no powers, no nothing, and he just dresses down Homelander to, you are just a product. That scene, I don't know if it was episode 1 or 2, but those scenes with them two, I think Gus is a real menace for this, and he's so good at being a villain. Breaking Bad, we've had bits of him in Mandalorian. We're about to get a whole lot more of him. We've got him in The Boys. What's he doing the next Far Cry? He loves to play a villain, and I think he is just incredible.
I've only ever seen him play a good guy in one thing, and that was The Maze Runner. That's it.
He's in Better Call Saul as well, and it's still Gus, but the final season next year. So it's all, everything's coming up Giancarlo Esposito at the moment.
Actually, no, of course he was in Do the Right Thing. So
and that's I'm excited to see where else comes from.
For me, season 3 hype, I'm trying to think where the characters are going to go. So we saw the boys themselves disband at the end and kind of settle down in their own lives. We had Frenchie and Kamiko. We had Mother's Milk finally get back with his wife and daughter. You had Huey starting a new job, still kind of working under Vought unknowingly to him with the Congresswoman. And with Starlight, keeping that relationship going there. Butcher is really the one who has nothing left at the moment. I think season 3, I think he's going to try and patch things up with his dad. I think it's going to be a father and son thing because I'm trying to think what else they can touch on. Everyone else is out of his life. The son's been taken away. It wasn't actually his kid anyway, but he saw his wife die before his very eyes. He has nothing left. And I think like everyone else is kind of wanting to just settle down now. They think that they've beaten Vought back as much as they can. They're going to go off and do their own thing. I think he's going to try and patch things up within his own life and try and give himself a self of center. That's what I think probably where his character's going to go. I think with Homelander, it's going to be that power struggle in his head, and I think he is going to be wanting to be top dog and take down everyone. But there's still all the whole supervillain aspect, which is hasn't really been addressed or sort of given a conclusion.
Cindy from the Sage Grove thing loose, and she can crush people.
Yeah,
you've got the kind of head blowing up thing. You've got the super terrorist, which kind of took a back seat, I'd say, in this season. It was towards the start of the season it was there, and then it kind of took a back seat. But they're still possibly coming in and stuff like that. So there's a few different options they could go with there, and
you could have Homelander breaking away from the Seven and joining with these supervillains and having a kind of civil war kind of aspect where you've got the superheroes fighting against each other. You could have the supervillains teaming up with the boys so that they've got their own superhero team, but then you're kind of repeating things with Starlight from season 1. I think there are elements there, and then you have the plot twist as well at the end with the Congresswoman. Now, when I first watched it, I thought, well, that's kind of a weak twist. It was sort of a background character I didn't even know the name of. I don't even know her name now. I just know her as the Congresswoman. Victoria Newman. And I thought it was building up. I was hoping for something big, like a big revelation. But the more I think about it, it kind of makes sense that it's a lesser known background character, because that's essentially what her character is. She's a plant from Vought. She is controlling everything behind the scenes. And I think with this knowledge now, it would make rewatching season 1 and season 2 very interesting, knowing who she is and what she's been doing in the background the whole time, controlling the entire chessboard for Vought. I don't know. It's maybe come around to it a little bit more. I do get the sense, though, that season 1 and 2 felt like a complete story. I felt like the story was told. I think I even said this to you, George, that the final episode of season 2 felt like not just a finale for this individual season, but a finale overall for the boys. And then you just kind of have that little tacked on thing with the Church of the Collective at the end with the plot twist. If you'd have removed that, to me, this would have been like the perfect end and just had like a solid duology 2-season for the boys. And you've told the story and it's finished. You have all the characters sort of going off doing their own thing. You have the whole thing with the son.
Amazon want money.
Well, exactly. And then you have like the awkward little epilogue tacked on at the end, like, oh, there's a season 3 coming. And it's
I still feel like the show's going to do perfectly fine. And there'll probably be a season 4 and maybe even a season 5 afterwards. It's a comic book series, so they could go in any direction they wanted. I know they're doing a spin-off show centered around, was it universities or something like that, where people, it's like a Hunger Games type thing. People compete to go into different cities and stuff like that. So it's going to be like superheroes versus superheroes in like a high school kind of college level setting.
It's going to be Amazon's cash cow. I think that's the big thing. You know, I think it
where
won't be
shows go to die. We had Fear the Walking Dead and The Walking Dead. We've got I don't know what are the ones that Joey and Friends. I guess is that another example. It's just
it's a weird one. I think if The Boys it's mental enough by its own right, anything could work. But I'm just a bit cautious. It seems very quick, 2 seasons and getting a spin-off already. Yeah. That's very quick for me. What I'm hoping is that I don't want this series to go on. I mean, Stranger Things, what the writer said, they've always had, is it 5 or 6 seasons from day one? They've known from the get-go how many series they have, and Netflix will be honouring that. It's not a problem, actually, it's a great thing. The Boys' popularity surged so high, is we're going to get these extensions, we're going to get more series, we're going to get stuff. But you need to control what you can do with that product, so you're not tainting it from what it once was. Game of Thrones will always be the example. Now, I know everyone used to go back to Lost, but Game of Thrones is the new for this. You had the first 4 seasons, and then you had the last 4 seasons, and I think that's a story that many series need to now sort of learn off. You know, the sort of story of The Boys, it's okay. It's not the best. It's not the worst. Keep taking the good things, but don't feel like they need to adapt everything. And I think if they can keep that mindset, they can do whatever they want. So season 3, I'm excited for it, but I'm intrigued and I'm also cautious. So I've got a lot of faith, and obviously it's going to be another couple of years. Obviously, it would have been filming if not for lockdown. So we're probably looking at 2022 for its return, which is quite sad, to be fair. But there's unlimited potential. I would love like a GTA as Homelander or just something like that. There's a lot they could do with this universe, and it's up to Amazon to do it properly. So that's kind of like my final thoughts looking at the future of it.
Yeah, and 2-year wait is. I'm with the rest of you now. I'm all caught up. So this is. It's like Batman. So that's what that feels like. We're back in it, waiting for the show. Yeah, exactly. We have a lot of other TV shows in between, though, which is very nice. At the end of this month, we've got Mandalorian season 2, nice episodic week-to-week thing, so that'll fill some time. Cobra Kai season 3 in January. There's plenty coming out, and TV is going to see us through, I think, because there's certainly no movies are doing that at the moment. But I think that pretty much covers it for our review on The Boys season 2. So now we want to hear from you guys. Let us know, what did you think of The Boys? Also season 1 as well, because we didn't do a video on that. Let us know what you thought, your speculation for season 3. Did you like it? Didn't you like it? And be sure to comment, share, and subscribe as usual as well. And also follow us on social medias. You can find us at Facebook at Cinema Savvy, Twitter at Cinema_Savvy, and there is also a link in the description for our TeePublic store where you can pick up some merch with our Cinema Savvy logos on if you want to do so. So yeah, that'll do it for our video. After this, it is back to the usual order of business at the moment with London Film Festival films. There's still quite a few more coming out. We will be actually pre-recording a review in an hour or so just after this for Wolfwalkers. Tate's going to be talking about that one. And then there's a few more that I need to get watched next week. So keep it locked here for the London Film Festival reviews, and we've got some other fun reviews and maybe some retro reviews in the pipeline as well over the next coming months. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Take care.